If it wasn't for the Most High who was on my side, man, ain't no telling where I'd be.
Mr. Wilson would've known.
Can't nobody tell me nothing different. The Father's been good to me.
So good to me.
Yeah. Wave your hands if you feel me. I'm a witness. Yeah, how it's been good to me.
So good to me.
Every morning that I rise, I thank Yahweh that I'm living. Keep my enemies at bay and never leave without my fringes. 1611 with me cause I'm on a mission. Talking sheep, I pay the cost, me and my lines really living. I don't need no glory, you don't have to know my story. Glad I made it out this world cause this world was never for me. I thought that I was. If it wasn't for the Most High who was on my side, man, ain't no telling where I'd be.
Mr. Wilson would've known.
Can't nobody tell me nothing different. The Father's been good to me.
So good to me.
Yeah. Wave your hands if you feel me. I'm a witness. Yeah, how it's been good to me.
So good to me.
Every morning that I rise, I thank Yahweh that I'm living. Keep my enemies at bay and never leave without my fringes. 1611 with me cause I'm on a mission. Talking sheep, I pay the cost, me and my lines really living. I don't need no glory, you don't have to know my story. Glad I made it out this world cause this world was never for me. I thought that I was.
Shalom, shalom, Yasharallah. How's everybody doing? All praises, that's what's up. Shalom to headquarters and shalom to, to the scatter abroad. Welcome to another Room 144, another session with us. Another, time and privilege, time to go ahead and chop up this word and, get more edification, Lord willing. So the topic we're covering this evening is, do you need a camp? You need a camp. Or why do you need a camp? Right? Because like many other things that are misunderstood in our community, a lot of wrongs that were built, from the beginning, that a lot of people, how pride is prevalent in our community. And people still have certain ways of thinking that are not scriptural, right? Because if you think about just think about how Israel, before there was a tabernacle, before there was a temple, right? How did Israel operate? How did Israel set up? Anybody? No, how did Israel live? Nomadic, but in what type of structure? In camps, right? In camps. So you had a camp, for example, tabernacles. You have tabernacles, right? Those that went out this year with True Nation, right? You had the quarter where we met. But imagine the fire pit, the central area of the area that you were supposed to meet at, right? That was the tabernacle, the main tabernacle where the Most High dwelt. And then it breaks down in the scriptures that you had the tribes encamped around the tabernacle. Israel was always gathered together, right? There's so many things that I could cover with this lesson, but I'm going to just, bring up just as reminders, because when you look at it, we were 70 deep, right? When we came into Egypt, 70 deep. These 70 individuals did not live by themselves, right? They rested, dwelt together. It was a family. Jacob begat all those kids, right? And those kids begat kids. And it added up to about 70 souls that came into the land of Egypt. Then, in the land of Egypt, in Goshen, we continue to multiply. And we continue to live amongst each other. Show me in the scriptures, well, we will go into that. It was a few, but show me in the scriptures where Israel was just dwelling by themselves. That's one thing that, I know the brother, I think both Yashimai and Darash bring it out in their classes when they talk about being excommunicated. And they stress that because a lot of us don't understand what that looks like. Since we never came from anything. I mean, some of us do have are blessed to have families, big families, and, dwell with them. I would say a small portion of us, the The other portion is not so, lucky or blessed. But in Israel, when you got excommunicated, that was the only time where you weren't a part of the nation. That's why when you go through the Torah, it talks about these different things, right? It talks about if you do this, if you transgress in this way, guess what? You're supposed to be booted out. In the New Testament, Matthew 18 goes into the same thing, right? So just think about it like that, because I don't get how anybody, brothers or sisters, even have the understanding or think that that's right. How is that ever right? Right? But just looking at the history, I was going to touch on the history and all that and go into scriptures, but it's not necessary. Just think about it. We always dwell together. We always dwelled in camps. Even when Jacob was to go and get a wife, right? What was he told? Go and pick one from your family, right? Go to your uncle. Go to your uncle and he'll show you what's up. His moms didn't say, just figure it out. Figure it out, son. Whoever you think is right, go ahead and deal with them. No, that's how disconnected we are. She sent them and said, listen, go to your relatives. Leviticus 18 is all broken down, right? We know who to marry. We know who not to mess with. It's that simple. He ended up with his cousins at that, right? And continue. And the lineage continues. Right? Also, you look at just meditate on the Torah, and you're gonna see how everything just connects amongst us always being together. The Most High, all through the scriptures, he tells you, gather what? Yourself together, right? All these things you look at. So how does it make sense when anybody could go ahead and say, the camps is nonsense, it's BS. We're not supposed to dwell in camps. The camps are full of it. It's like, what Bible are you really reading, right? But let's open up. Let's open up with the book of Hebrews. Let me get Hebrews, and I'm going to need, let's see. Actually, Romans 12. Four.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 12 and verse 4. For as we have many members in one body.
You know what, Salak, start at 1.
Verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren.
So right here, the brother's saying, I beg you, therefore, brethren. That what?
By the mercies of the Most High, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice.
So start with that, a living sacrifice. If you think about it, it's real convenient to be away from the body. You know what? It's just too many headaches, too much stress, too many issues dealing with all these Israelites, all these blacks and Latinos. Just too much. I can't stand it. I need peace. Most High right here through one of his sons, he said, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yahweh, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice. How do you present yourself a living sacrifice? Right? The bishop, went into it a couple of weeks ago. And actually last week, Bishop Banaya, and it was talking about presenting yourself a sacrifice. But without mercy, that was in vain. So who without charity, Salakia, without charity, you presenting your body a living sacrifice was no good. So then how does that make sense? First of all, how are you going to present yourself a sacrifice to who? If you're by yourself, right? And then how are you going to be charitable if, again, you're by yourself? Shalom. Or if you're let's say your family. But think about it. If you're with your family, let's say you're with your wife, 2 sons, 2 daughters, that's already a camp. That's already a church, how the scripture breaks it down, right? So these are the things that a lot of us just blabber out of our mouth, but don't really understand and consider what it is that we're saying. And then we misguide people by saying these things and don't understand, like, damn, you're confusing people. We are in a state of confusion. We've been in confusion for centuries. And then now you come to Israel, an Israelite, and he starts telling you things that are not even scriptural. That's why we have this, bad reputation, right? People look at us and be like, man, you know what? It sounds like another religion, a bunch of confusion. But the ones that are confused are the ones talking to you. Because these individuals, one, they're not reading. And if they're reading, some only read the Old Testament, some only read the New Testament, and only read. Don't really examine and break and, go and meditate on these scriptures to really understand them. And remember, anybody can read the scriptures. But the Most High said he will present this knowledge and give the understanding to those that are adhering to his laws. So it might sound simple, like, anybody could open it up, but it don't work like that. That's why Psalms 147, 19, and 20 is there. It tells you, I'm only dealing with Yasharallah. These laws, these statutes, and these judgments, nobody else has known them. Bless ye the Lord, right? So in the New Testament, it tells you. In Proverbs, it tells you, right? It's an honor to a king to go search the matter and really understand it. Because it takes time. It takes dedication, right? It takes effort. It takes discipline. You can't just open this book and be like, you know what, I got it. No, it don't work like that. That's why a lot of people be like, you know what, I read the whole Bible, but as far as, the writings, Paul's epistles, I skip those, man. They're too confusing. How do you do that? Revelations, what is it? 20, I believe it is, and 19 and 20. There's a book in the scriptures, and Revelations that says you cannot add or take away from the scriptures. So then you're already failing right there. And now you're bringing confusion to people. I talk to people here where it's like, you know what, as far as Paul, I don't really mess with him. Damn, so what are you messing with? Because Paul is really breaking down what we in right now. The era that we in right now is the same that Paul was in. What people get confused as the new covenant. But even he breaks it down to the T what the new covenant looked like. You say new covenant, people get shook like, damn, so what covenant is it? What do we do? Bishop already did an excellent job breaking that down. But I'm saying when you really meditate in these scriptures, again, so how are you going to get this understanding if you're by yourself? We as a unit right here, we have a panel about, I think, 8 to 10 brothers. Then we have all the, congregants here. We have leadership in other states. We talk about doctrine. We break doctrine. We go into it, even with, the congregants. If there's any issues, we sit down and we do what we need to do. Nobody here says, nobody here ever says or feels or moves like, we know it all. If there's something that we don't know, we go into it, we fast, we meditate, we search out the matter, which is what the scriptures tell you to do. But how are you going to do that when you're by yourself at home? I remember when I was coming up, I didn't know anything about a camp. The people I came up with and I understood the basics, I couldn't find them anymore. There was a time where I was keeping dedication the way the Jewish people keep dedication, Hanukkah, right? But imagine how off I was compared to what the scriptures say. And yes, this is years ago. Nowadays, you'd be like, man, it's a simple search. You could just look it up. It wasn't like that back then. Even this YouTube, all these searches, AI, everything that exists right now, that's why there's no reason for anybody to have an excuse and say, Lord, I didn't know. I didn't know no better. Back then, in those years, I would even meditate like, damn, how is it that a couple of brothers scattered that know about this word are going to get this and relay it to the whole world? Now we're looking at it. We're streaming live right now. Us and many other congregations all throughout the four corners, right? Congregations, churches, camps, whatever title you want to give it. So again, meditate on these things. It might sound like I'm just going off, but no, it's just things that you really got to meditate on. Because we could go into scriptures all night, but meditate on these. How does that make sense? And then another big thing that I'm going to get into in a minute, go ahead and read this.
That ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service.
Go ahead.
Verse 2, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God.
So look at that. One, you do that on your own, right? For your own person, your family. But then also in the congregation, amongst your families, right? This is what you're doing. When you look at Moses had that burden. Then his his father-in-law came through and said, look, Moses, you're going to kill yourself. You know what? You got to set able men to be able to help you out, right? In the governing of the nation. This is in Torah. So it got broken down, right? Is where you look at captains of 1,000 and so forth when you go into the book of into the days of David. It was always broken down like that. Everywhere you read about us in the scriptures, it was always broken down in camps, literally in camps. You were supposed to set up per tribe. That was a camp. That was your camp. You read the order of the camps all around the tabernacle. So again, no matter where you go in the scriptures, you're going to find that. So now it's saying that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. Again, that's a big reason why people don't like to dwell with each other. Oh, they're wicked. You start pointing the finger. You start pointing the finger, but don't understand that that's the whole point of us being here, to be able to help each other out, to be able to uplift each other, to be able to help, whenever we're going through some tough times, be able to be there. When we're able to go ahead and, reach certain success or achievements, to be able to celebrate each other. That's what family is. That's what these camps are supposed to be. Right? Go ahead, Ak.
For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think.
Look at that. And he's telling you no matter what, always be humble. Always be meek. You look at Yahushai, that's how he operated. You look at, Peter, you look at Paul, Stephen, all them brothers, they weren't weak, because people think, meek, that means somebody that's soft. Humble, that's somebody that, is just a yes man. Nah, that's not it. If you read the scriptures, Yahushai was a strict individual. Another reason why people don't like to be around people, around certain leaders. But it tells you in the scriptures not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think. The scriptures are telling you no matter what. In the scriptures, last week we also went into it. It says the more knowledge you get, the higher you get in a position, the more humble you must present yourself. Yahushua is a prime example of that. So then when you look at this is how you're able to go ahead and understand, okay, the camp that I'm in, am I in or am I under righteous leadership? Am I, are these men conducting themselves according to scriptures? Even at the household, even as brethren with each other, when we're dwelling with each other, when we're dealing with each other. We're supposed to call each other out like, hey, listen, that's not scriptural right there. Sis, guess what? The way you're operating, that's not according to scriptures. But again, how are you going to get that correction if you're by yourself at home? You can't. If your leader at home is off, who's going to correct him? Who's going to, how's he, there's no accountability when you're alone. And that's really the reason why a lot of people have issues with camps. That's the main reason. Because again, even if you're in a camp and you see that something is off, then you go ahead and address it. Matthew 18 is right there. It's right there to show you exactly how to deal with these things. Here, True Nation, no exception. No matter where you go, at home, but just be in order. For example, if my elder's out of line, I'm not going to make a spectacle of the situation. The scriptures tell you how to deal with them, right? In privacy. You go ahead and deal with them and do it righteously, right? These are things also that you might slip up and not be in order. Then somebody calls you out. So now imagine that person's by themselves. Who are they going to tell? Nobody. But if you're in a congregation, then guess what? Hey, you know what? I'm going to go talk to leadership. You're off, brother. You're off, sis. All right, let's deal with it, right? So it says, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, which is another issue in these camps. And that's one of the reasons why people don't like the camps. But it's not for you to run away. Remember, these are things, we're coming from all these traumas, from all the confusion, right? Broken homes, broken systems. So obviously we don't know how to deal with each other the way we ought to. So it's a process. As we're in this process, we're supposed to help each other out to be better. Then in the scriptures, eventually, if I get to it, but if not, Thessalonians tells you, Matthew 18 tells you, if they don't adhere to correction, then guess what? Excommunicate them. And then certain sins or certain transgressions, it tells you, excommunicate them for a minute so they could be ashamed, get it together, and come back if they show fruits worthy of repentance. That's how it operates. That's how it works. Unless it's a sin that is punishable by death, then you took yourself out. But that's why the congregation is so vital for us to be able to, look out for each other before that happens. Go ahead, continue on.
But to think soberly, according as the Most High had dealt to every man the measure of faith.
See, every man the measure of faith. Every man. Let's get into it. 4.
For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office.
You hear that, right? So it says, for as we have many, plural, members in one body. One body. That's a church. That's a camp. That's a congregation. Whatever title you want to give it. That's what that is, right? So it says, as we have many members in one body, and what?
And all members have not the same office.
Everybody has a different purpose. Before that, we read how God had dealt with every man and given each one of us a certain measure of faith. So we need to feed off each other, right? Build with each other. When you read about Elijah and Elijah, what do you recall from that story? Elijah left, right? Elijah stayed. What did he require? What did he desire? Double portion, right? The double portion, like what the scriptures say, covet the best gifts. The brother said, okay, he's ascending, he's gone. Please bless me with double what he had. For what? So he could be better than the brother was. That's how we got to be looking at things. You know what? The young ones, they're supposed to be locked in. We're supposed to be good examples so they could look at us and be like, oh, you know what? I want to be like him, but better. I want to be like her, but much better. Give me double the portion of these sisters' blessings, so I could be a better female, better wife, or a better leader if he's a man, and so forth. That's the environment that we're supposed to be building. A lot of us give up on each other when it's like, man, we're just the first generation coming in. We're the first generation coming in, and instead of fighting the good fight, we throw in the what? We throw in the towel. We give up. And we go back to the world where it said right here, don't be like the world, right? Disconnect from the world. It says, and be not conformed to this world. Oh, well, the world, you know what? I'm at peace. I don't have to deal with no Hebrews. I don't have to deal with no doctrine. I don't have no limitations. I'm much blessed now because guess what? I'm economically, I'm good. Financially, I'm good, right? I'm at peace, and I'd rather stay like that. I'd rather keep it like that. Think about that. True stories, left and right, right? But the scriptures tell you the opposite. It says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Go back to 4.
Verse 4. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and every one member one of another.
You see that? And then it goes into the different gifts, right? Ministry, prophecy, teaching, right? Teachers, exhorting, like everything. It goes all into all the different gifts that each individual has, and then read verse 16.
Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits.
So it says, listen, from all these blessings that all these brothers and sisters have around you, at the end of the day, be of one mind. Be at peace, be right with each other, right? It says, for those that are at the bottom, those that are going through things, help them out. Help them up, right? So again, it takes a village, right? The old adage where it says, if it's not broken, don't what? Don't fix it. So why are we trying to do different? We try to operate different when the scriptures are already laid out. We read through all these scriptures. Let's go to 10 and 24. Same book. Hebrews. Hebrews 10 and 24. So again, many different members, but one body. We got to understand all these different camps right now. We know in part, we prophesy in part, right? But a big thing is, which I don't see really happening, is sitting down and really going into these doctrines as a government that we're supposed to be doing, that we're supposed to be, right? And we're supposed to be moving towards being one body, how we just read in Romans. But go ahead and read that in Hebrews, please.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 10 and verse 24. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works.
So you see that? Let us consider one another, right? Again, how are we going to do that when we're not in a camp, when we're not in a congregation or a church, whatever title you want to give it? Go ahead.
Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is.
So is there anything new under the sun? Not at all. This is back in the days of Christ, right after Christ's death, right? And he said, read that again.
Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is.
As the manner of some is, as some do. So again, you're not special. You're just like the scriptures when Yahweh Shai goes in and talks to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, talking about, man, you guys are acting like you're righteous. But you're the same offspring, right? And the regeneration of your forefathers that persecuted the prophets and killed them. If you have issues with camps, then guess what? That's where you come from. Because remember, it's a repetition, right? A repetition of what you were back in the day. For the most part, when you look at it, that's why they were like, is that Elijah? Is that John? Who is this? Because they seen a righteous man. So when they saw a righteous man, they only thought about righteous ancestors that this man could be. And the opposite is the same, right? When you're a wicked individual, it goes back all the way to the beginning, the spirit of Cain. In James, I believe it talks about that, and it references Cain, and then all the other wicked individuals you read about. It is the same thing as when in the book of Maccabees, and also in Esdras, I believe it is. It's all throughout the scriptures where it refers to all the righteous forefathers we had and the righteous sisters that existed. So again, you have issues with camps. Guess what? You probably come from individuals in the past that had the same issues. It's nothing new. But if you have any issues, not only with camps, but anything that is the doctrine of the Most High, you got to repent while you have a chance. It says right here again, read 24.
Verse 24. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works.
So now this is two parts to this, right? It says, and let us consider one another. First, we got to consider one another. If you're not congregating or coming together with people, you need to consider these things. And then it says, to provoke unto love and good works. So now let's say you are part of a camp. Are you doing that? Or are you provoking division? Or what are you provoking? Right? What are you bringing to the table? What is your spirit like? Are you provoking chaos, confusion? Because we just read in Romans, it says no. And at the end of the day, to be of one mind, right? Like 1 Corinthians 1 and 10, and of one accord. So these are the things we got to consider. If we're away from a body, we need to get with a body. That don't mean you just jump into whatever body. You could, we have people, our brothers refer to them as visitors. Visitors that could be here for months, sometimes years. We have a couple this evening, all praises to the Most High. Eventually, when they make their choice to join, if they go ahead and deem the congregation worthy, right? They go ahead and join, become congregants. Then duties. There's duties for these congregants. Why? It's not because True Nation made them up. It's what the scriptures tell you to set up. As a government in Israel, there's things that you need to abide by. There's things that you need to complete and fulfill. Because that's the only way that we're going to level up. That's the only way that we're going to have in our minds what nation building looks like. Rehearsing the righteous acts. These are the only way, and that's the thing about, being able not to be closed-minded. For example, I've gone to different states where I know that if there's a camp there, I go and visit them. That don't mean I gotta, be 100 and agree with their doctrine, but guess what? I'm an Israelite, you're an Israelite. You're keeping the Sabbath, I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna break bread and I'm gonna talk to you, right? And like the scripture says, there's a time for everything. This is wisdom you gotta operate with. You're not just gonna go in there and be sitting down and because you don't agree to a particular doctrine or part of their doctrine, start blurring things out. That's scriptural. It tells you don't even interrupt people in their when they're communicating, when they're speaking to each other. So again, these are the only things. These things you learn. I learned them in a congregation. I learned them observing, my leaders, elders, the kids, the women, living life and understanding. Guess what? You know what? You got to operate according to these scriptures. Because anytime you go left, life turns chaotic for you. And it's not life and it's not God, but it's you and your decisions. Why? Because I hear correction from here. I hear correction from there. I get checked. You know what? Let me do better, Abba. Let me do right. But without a body, I'll go ahead and do whatever I want or whatever I think is right. So this is the necessity of us, the reason why we need to be in a body. So it says, let us draw near. Salakia. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. Go ahead, 25 again.
Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching.
You see that? So you out there by yourself, you're not even going to be aware of what's going on. This is Abba's business. You come back and you talk about the business, right? What do you know about this week? I know Mom was hitting us up sometime during this week on this folly day. Things got a little bumpy and chaotic, so you'd be able to report to each other. Hey, out here in Ephesus, man, it's off. Right here in Corinth, man, you should see what's going on. Right here in South Central, this and this is happening. And up here in the AV, this is happening. In San Bernardino, look, this is what's going down. Or even just in the groups right here with the congregations. You know what? Georgia, this is happening in Georgia. Canada's having these issues. You know what? Ghana, they done and completed this project. They're moving to this phase now. So it's like, this is Abba's business. This is how we deal with each other. We're able to see like, okay, cool, the operation, the ministry is in motion. Or we're able to go back and be like, you know what? We need to fix this, this, and this. So these committees, these departments got to have a meeting, meet up, and be able to figure out how to resolve these issues. That's what council is for. That's what these different committees are for. These different bodies, these different individuals. Everybody has a different, we have garments that got to be put together. You ain't going to see the bishop doing that, the apostles doing that. Like, no, there's a department for that. There's certain people that's their lane, that's their gift, right? Financial department, communications department, right? The people that heal, the people that evangelize. All these things is what we just read about in Romans. So it's telling you right here, again, right? Not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another. It goes back to that. okay, these departments are lacking. What do we got? What do we need to do with each other? We got to check each other. We need to correct each other, because it says the time is night. It's closing up. That window that we have to get it right. As you see our people, right? You can't think of Yahushua coming like every day. It could be your last day. What are you doing? And if I'm able to see my brother going off, or he's able to see me that I'm off, then he's got to check me while I have a chance to get it right, right? And that only happens, again, if you're in a community, camp, church, congregation, whatever you want to call it. Let's go from there. Let's go to the Old Testament, Psalms 50 and 5. Everybody good? Book of Psalm 50 and 5.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 50 and verse 5. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice.
You hear that? That sounds like a commandment to me. It says, gather my saints together unto me. It's a commandment. It's an instruction. It says, gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. How you gonna have issues with camps, but in your mind, you're thinking of making it to the kingdom? You gonna be on the side in the kingdom? You gonna be by yourself? It don't work like that. It's never worked or operated like that. And the scriptures has always broken it down like, listen, come on, come together. That's why when you had Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh that tried to stay on the west side of the Jordan, what happened with them? No, but what happened? What did the other tribes come and tell them? They checked them, right? They were like, what's up with you? What's wrong with you? And they said, nah, there's nothing wrong with us. We good. And we're going to make sure that we on point. And whenever you guys go to war, we're going to war with you. We just, I guess they like dwelling on the west side, right? But that shows you how everybody was moving in one accord. When that happened, all the other tribes, 11 and 12 and a half, came and corrected, or actually inquired and asked Manasseh, like, what's going on with you? You guys want to be your own? You guys want to do your own thing? If you think about it, what happened in the days of Solomon that got us where we at now? Before Solomon, 1 Kings 11, we were what? But what were we? During Saul, during David, and during Solomon, what was Israel? One kingdom, right? There was no northern and southern division. That division came from iniquity. It came from sin. So when you think about it, division and separation comes from sin. So why are we going to try to continue to separate from each other? When the whole point is to, what we read right now, read it again.
Verse 5, gather my saints together unto me.
Together. Gather my saints together unto me. You're going back home, you're going to the New Jerusalem. A place, right? Even with the camps, when you read about Yahushua, when you read about Tobit, when you read about anybody, after the division, according to 1 Kings 8:44, reason why we pray towards Jerusalem, it said no matter what or where you are, when you come, when these three feasts hit, right, the high holy feast days, you were to come to Israel and dwell together. You read about Yahushua, Joseph and Mary, they did that annually. Tobit, they did that. You read about Samuel, Anna and her husband and the other wife, they did that. They were always to come together and worship the Most High, which is what we're reading about right here. That's to say, when you go again into the history of Israel, you look at that. When Jeroboam took office, right, the one thing that he decided to do was to build an altar on the north side of northern Israel, or the northern kingdom, and on the south side. therefore to impede Israel from going to Jerusalem. He said, listen, you ain't got to go to Jerusalem anymore. You just post up right here. Do your high holy feast days right here. Was that righteous or was that sin? That was wicked. So again, think about it. It's just reasoning. You got to reason with these scriptures. That is if you're reading. That is if you're going through the book and trying to understand your history. Right? So let me get from there. Let me get Zephaniah 2:1.
This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together, ye. Gather together, O nation not desired. Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you.
Look at that. We still have a chance right now. Stop being stubborn, Israel. Stop trying, to be an independent individualite. You see brothers and sisters post, with all this pride, like, yeah, I'm this and what? Because all I've gotten from camps is, issues and problems. Okay. So what? Did you deal with them? What makes you think you're not the issue or the problem? Right? Everybody else is wrong but you. How was that? When we just read in the scriptures, it says, provoke each other unto good works, correct each other, build each other. So if you're that much better than the camps, why don't you be charitable to get the camps to your standard or to your level, if that's the case, right? That sounds like the opposite of what charity is, right? But in reality, it's a bunch of egos and a bunch of pride when you think about it. Because if you really humble yourself, you'll be like, you know what? Let me examine what it is that I'm off on. And why is it that we're not, lining up with each other? Why is it that I clash with these people? And that goes for any one of us. Like, okay, why is it that my spirit doesn't, is not, what do you call it? Yeah, peaceable is one. Or aligned with certain individuals, right? Yeah, resonate. So it's like, you think about like, why is it that me and this brother can't get along? Then you meditate. Then you have a sit down. And then you talk about it. Right? Do we not do that? We talk about it. It might be stuff that I'm doing and be like, hey, you know what, Ash? That's off. What do you mean? Yeah, you know what, this and this and this, it's not cool, all right. Might pull a scripture or two. Oh, you know what? I get it. The water. And so forth. But for me to be like, you know what? The hell with these people. I'm going to do my own thing. That's not scriptural. Imagine if that was the case, Moses would have been like, you know what? Yeah, do away with them, Abba. And start a nation with me. Because I'm much better than them. Moses, which is, man, humble, the definition of humility, did not do that. Who are we to operate and conduct ourselves like that, right? But we do that often. But again, the point here is, it says, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desire. Before what? Read that again.
Before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you.
Exactly. Before judgment day, get it together. Understand that the way you're thinking, the way you're operating is not of the Most High. Let's get Deuteronomy 31, 12 through 13.
This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31 and verse 12. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn and fear.
Hold up. Again, who are you learning from? Because even in the New Testament where it says, do you understand? He says, how can I? Unless somebody teach me again. So what Bible are you reading? What understanding are you getting? Because right here it says, gather everybody together. And remember, there were strangers amongst us, right? It says, even the strangers. Everybody needs to get this message. That was back in the day, yeah. Whoever was there. Nah. That was then because we were moving. As far as the strangers, no. Yeah, the strangers were, when we came out of Egypt, there was strange. They were actually Egyptians, Hamites, you know, and they were supposed to roll with us. Those that came, like Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14 breaks down that there's going to be the other nations that are going to serve Israel. So they got to abide by the law. So, yeah, that's not like in the congregation. There's no need for that. So this was back in the day, right? So it says, everybody gather together and understand these things, right? Read that part again.
Verse 12, gather the people together, men and women and children, and thy stranger that is within thy gates, that they may hear and that they may learn.
There you go, that they may hear and that they may learn. Somebody needs to instruct the people. Back in the day, you had the prophets, right? You had the priesthood. Those were the individuals that were more connected with the Most High, and those were the mediators. After Yahushua, right, it says you're going to be a nation of priests, right? So now you have individuals that are supposed to be qualified to be able to teach and instruct, right? Not only because they know these scriptures, but also they have a good report, a pattern of good works. These are all the things that you got to take into consideration, always, because that's what, you know, when you look at right here at Moses, that's what he had. He had a good report. He fled. He defended Israel. He fled. He came back. He was humble, right? He never gave up on the people. He did check the people, though. He corrected the people. So he was a pretty balanced individual. And when there was things that he wasn't doing to the best of his ability, he took advice. And he even gave advice, when you think about it, to the Most High. So if you ask me, he's more than he's a well-qualified candidate for that position. And that's how it should be in these camps. All right, so again, it's a balance as you go, through your walk. You got to look at these things. You got to examine. You got to pull people to the side and speak to them when you see that they're off. Why? Because you're reading these scriptures and you're looking at things for what they are, and that individual or individuals might be off. Guess what? Then now it's your duty, like in Ezekiel, to go ahead and warn those individuals. Or Isaiah 58:1, cry aloud, spare not. You ain't going to cry aloud, obviously. You're going to pull them to the side, but you're going to correct each other. Leviticus 19:17. Don't let anybody sin. If you see sin, correct them, check them. Go ahead, read.
That they may hear and that they may learn, and fear the Lord your God, and observe to do all the words of this law, and that their children, which have not known anything, may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as ye live in the land whither ye go over Jordan to possess it.
So you see, that's why there was an issue. It says, you're going over the Jordan. Manasseh said, nah, we're going to stay on this side. I said, hold up. So just letting you know, how did they know that? Because they were here in a camp, in a church, in a congregation, whatever you want to call it, learning from the one that was instructing them. At that time, it was Moses, Aaron, right? And the individuals that they set up. So imagine you were an individual like back then, and Moses is up here teaching you, teaching the nation. What are you learning? What doctrine are you following? Your own, right? You look at the separation too with Eve, for example. Eve went and got the doctrine of the world, the understanding, the knowledge of the world, and what happened from that point on? Sin, division, we got booted out. And it happens to every one of us when we choose to go left and not according to these scriptures. We end up in a difficult situation. Let me get Numbers 1:52.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 1 and verse 52. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp.
By his own what?
By his own camp.
Uh-huh.
And every man by his own standard, throughout their hosts.
So there you go. You see that? Okay. Your own camps, meaning your own tribe. We tribal people, but it says to their own standard. So that also says within the body, you operate at home. There shouldn't be big differences, but there's differences, right? We are different. Each one of us is different, you know? Brother right here with his wife, they operate in their household different than another couple. As long as everything is done in righteousness, there's no issue. As far as, you know, the brother might have a certain, you know, look that he goes for. As long as it's in righteousness, the sister, the same thing. Different looks, different, you know, even Yahweh has his favorite. So it says to your own standard per household. To your own standard per household, but in your camp as a tribe. And then when we moved, we were nomadic people. The same thing. You rolled, you already knew where you were going to be set up. Everything was done decently and in order. No matter where we went. We did that all the way up until Solomon built the temple. Then at that time, we were going and gathering, you know, in the temple, holding service, you know, in the temple. But even then, when you look at the scriptures, there was a certain way of how the houses were supposed to be built. Everything. I mean, there's table etiquette in the scriptures. From table etiquette to how you're supposed to, you know, construct a house, a building. All of that is here. That is our culture. But when we go and do our own things, we're going away from the culture. That's why you see the bishop, time after time, stress that community building. Stress how vital it is for us to come together. Because that would make it much easier for us to be able to be successful. Because that's what our people were doing back then. They didn't go and do their own thing. You know, I was talking to the other bishop recently. I'm like, yeah, you know what? We read about the book of Acts to sell our belongings, but a lot of us don't even have anything to sell. Imagine that. But why is that? Everybody doing their own thing instead of coming and understanding, okay, Jeremiah 29 tells me to live like this. This tells me to do this. The Torah tells me to do this. Then let me forget my worldly ways and start dedicating myself and living according to what these scriptures say. That way, I'm able to go ahead and set up myself, my family, right? Be able to have some real estate, be able to have some assets, be able to have somewhere to pull from so I could go ahead and help the ministry. That should be in everybody's mind. And that's something that we're supposed to instruct the little ones from the beginning. Paying alms, guess what? Y'all got to pay $5 a month or whatever it is that you get. Whatever you're able to pay, pay it. Chores at home. You're doing these chores. These are your chores. These are your chores. Mom and pops are supposed to be on the same page. And you see the results. You see people when they operate under a structured household, how they conduct themselves and how they become, you know, they're successful individuals. The way they think different. These are the things that we're supposed to be doing. And it only happens being in a community, looking like, damn, you know what? I remember the bishop with the babies. He had the babies reading at what? How old were they? 1. I remember my wife would tell his youngest, spell Mississippi. All these complicated words. AJ would just go. Oh, like nothing, you know? So I'm like, okay, these are the things I'm looking at like, okay, cool. That's what's up. I'm telling my sister now when she has her babies, like, look, you know what? You should look into this program. You should look into these things. Why? Because these are the things you learn from the community. I deal with certain brothers. Okay, you know what? Every brother has a different niche, different gift, right? And like, okay, cool. You know what? I learned this from this brother. I learned this from this brother, this sister, even the youngsters. You only get that from a community, and you only gonna get that from a righteous community. Because why? Why would you want to go to the world? But even then, in the world, right? Because we're in this world, you're able to discern just how we, you know, go through different books. Like, okay, this is on point. This is off. Discernment comes from being amongst your people. When you have conversations with your people, okay, you know what? I didn't see it like that. Now, you know what? I'm gonna meditate on that, and I'm gonna move the way that I'm supposed to move. I thought I was moving right, but I wasn't. So let me reconsider, right? So right here, it's breaking it down that no matter what, no matter where you look, Israel was moving as a unit. What was that? Exactly. Let me get this right quick. You could get Colossians 3. So it says, according to the Bible, the Israelites and their ancestors, right, moved in camps during their journey through the wilderness after the exodus from Egypt, setting up temporary settlements called encampments, wherever the cloud, you know the history, and in the wilderness, talking about being a nomadic people. So that was just something. If you do a search, a real quick search, you're gonna see how Israel always dealt with each other. The one thing you're also gonna find, and it talks about that in the New Testament, is your vagabond Jews. Who were the vagabond Jews? The same, they had the same mentality as the term that we use nowadays, the individualites. Doing your own thing, operating the way you want to operate. Always having issues with doctrine, but not sitting down to really, examine it. Examine these things to, come to a resolution. When the scriptures, they tell you to do the complete opposite. Get that real quick? Yeah. 3:16.
This is the book of Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 16. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord.
You cannot do that by yourself. You cannot. If we have issues here and we have a whole choir, right? And there's still, a lot of other offices that certain individuals gotta fill because we still don't have enough workers. Now imagine at home by yourself or just with your immediate family. You're not gonna do that. You're not gonna do that. Another thing it says, a prophet can't be a prophet in his own city. So again, you look at things sometimes, as a young lady or a young male, you might want to listen to your uncle's perspective of things opposed to your father. Although you respect your father, but you know what? I'm gonna go talk to Gramps. I'm gonna go talk to my uncle. I'm gonna go talk to my cousin. You have all these brothers here. They're either cousins, uncles. Those are the figures that we're supposed to be filling, right? So these are the things. You know what? Let me go talk again. You talk to everybody in the camp. You understand that what Pops is saying is what the scriptures are saying. So your whole mind is already focused. Like, you know what? No matter where I go, I gotta commit to this. Because if I go left, then I know there's gonna be consequences. And you see the different generations. You're able to pick from brothers that are older, from brothers that are younger. Be able to see examples, right? But that's only gonna happen in a body. So let's go from there. Let me get Matthew 18 and 20.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 18 and verse 20. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them.
So a lot of people be like, see, there it is. I don't need a camp. Yahweh Shai just told you that's what a group is, a camp, a little congregation, a church. 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name. But is that where it stops? Because you look at these parables about the wedding and said, nah, go gather everybody. You read about Tobit. He said, nah, you know what, Tobias, go get everybody. All those people that can't afford a meal on this holy feast of Pentecost, bring them. Bring the righteous individuals. Bring them so we could sup and break bread. It was never an individual type thing. Again, accountability. Those that are listening and probably get upset at that, it's accountability, Akim and Akwath. Stop running away from it. You got to come, join a body, deal with each other. Even just breaking bread and, might not be part of that body, but you got to start communicating and gathering with Israel, with other Israelites. You shouldn't be afraid of dealing with any Israelite in this walk. If you're grounded and you really know what you're about, it shouldn't be an issue. And for brothers and sisters that look at each other, some type of way and don't even greet each other, I mean, last I heard and last I read in the scriptures, it says, greet the saints, right? We got to operate the right way. If we consider ourselves to be Christians or Jews or Hebrews, Israelites, we need to start operating according to these scriptures. Let me get 12 and 30. Look at this right here. This is going into the differences, right? Because there is differences, Matthew. There's differences in doctrine and so forth. But one thing we must understand is the fruits of the Spirit. If you have the fruits of the Spirit in your congregation, in your leadership, right? Because your leadership sets the tone. If your leadership is in order, the body should be in order. Anybody that's out of line in the body, then either they're getting corrected or, suspended or whatever it is. Some type of correction should come forth, right? So then, if that's the case, if we really start, walking towards that as a nation, all congregations, all camps, all churches, then we're going to be all right. Because look at what Yahweh Shai says right here, Matthew 12 and 30. Remember, back in the day, he was dealing with Essenes, Sadducees, Pharisees, Zealots. I mean, every sect or every camp, every denomination, if you want to call it that, they all existed back then. There's nothing new under the sun. It was all there. But look at what he said right here.
Verse 30, he that is not with me is against me.
You hear that? Because he had the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. The Pharisees did. Right? But he's telling them right here, straight up. Look, read that again.
He that is not with me is against me.
Uh-huh.
And he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad.
Wow, look at that. So that should have you thinking like, okay, let me pump the brakes, right? What am I doing? Because remember, Yahweh Shai was a Nazarene, right? Paul, it says, the scriptures say it, the ringleader of the Nazarites, right? The ones that are turning the world upside down because they're coming in and chopping up every doctrine in every one of our camps. What makes you think that things changed from back then to now? Again, the things that our people say, there should be nothing but unity in Israel. Show me that in the book. If that's the case, unity, that means everybody's in one accord, but everybody has different doctrines. How does that make sense? In the scriptures right here, Yahweh Shai just said what he said. Read that again.
Verse 30, he that is not with me is against me.
Uh-huh.
And he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad.
Look at that. Again, I stress this because you got to really look at that. Like, listen, am I gathering with Yahweh Shai? Because if not, I'm scattering abroad. That shows you right there how being away from bodies, camps, churches, congregations is iniquity, is sin. It's against the Most High. It's against Christ. It says you're scattering abroad. Bishop covered last week's lesson. At the beginning of the lesson, he was going into all these scriptures. I think it was the book of Ezekiel, Jeremiah, one of those, right, that talks about bringing the fold back to the green pastures, bringing Israel back to being under him, his fold, right? All the scriptures tell you that. It says these wicked leaders scatter the sheep abroad, right? They have sent them to pretty much worship every green tree, every religion, every type of ideology in the book. So that goes That's what he's telling them right here. At the same time, back in the day when he was here, when he was walking the earth, that's why he went into, in Mark 7:6. He says, ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of ye. You worship me, right, in word, but in actions, you're fully off. And then he goes into the doctrines of men. The doctrines of men. And when you really meditate on these things, you start seeing and making sense of things. Because he was always correcting whatever was off. Whatever was off, according to the law of Moses, which is according to the law of the Most High, he would always go in and let them know. They would come and try to flip it on him, right? Hey, what are you doing on the Sabbath? And he went all the way, to the history, and he said, do you not recall what David did? David and his men? When they had to pick, what was it? The showbread, right? Or glean some corn en route to eat the day of. He broke it down like, bro, like that's not a sin. And then even how that went down with the priests to do good on the Sabbath. They did what they had to do, and they never went and transgressed anything. He breaks everything down. He gives the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding behind everything. Showing you how not everything is just as mechanical as some may want to make it seem. You got these Jewish people that, don't turn the switch on. They don't turn the switch on, but they got the 10 tribes that work for them. Go ahead and do that and clean up the house as well. How hypocritical is that? Because if you read Exodus 20 and the fourth commandment, right? It tells you that even your animals were supposed to be at rest. But you only get that when you actually read and meditate and you go, through this learning process in a body. Read that again, please.
Verse 30. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattered abroad.
Mm-hmm. Let me get Sirach 17. I think I want 24.
This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 17 and verse 24. But unto them that repent, he granted them return, and comforted those that failed in patience.
Look at that right there, right? So, what are you returning to? And Jeremiah tells you, just step away from your sin and come back. Come back to what? So these are the things that we always need to consider when we're reading these scriptures. Make it make sense. When you sit down and you deal with certain individuals that be moving like that, ask them, what's the point then? If you're going to be on your own, then what's the point of the whole Bible? Because no matter where we read, it's always telling you to come together, come back, right? Then another thing, going back into the, now let me finish this. Go to Hebrews 10:19.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 10 and verse 19. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holiest by the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, by a new and living way, which he hath consecrated for us, through the veil, that is to say, his flesh, and having an high priest over the house of God.
You see that? Again, one individual, Yahushua being the high priest, coming back to that fold as one people, as a unit. There's only going to be one church at that point, and that church is going to be led by Yahushua and his elect. But everything will be done decently and in order. But that's not to say, we cannot be moving and rehearsing that right now. There's no reason for us to not be operating like that, right? When you look at the book of Acts 2:1, it says they were all together, gathered together from all around the world, right? In one mind and one spirit. Right? That's when the Holy Ghost came and was presented. That comfort, that the spirit of comfort was brought unto Israel at that point. That's how we were supposed to be operating. Okay, everybody from all around the four corners of the earth, this is how we operate, this is how we move. And we did it for a minute, right? But there was also always people that were going against the way of the Most High, against the way of Yahweh Shai. So again, these things are going to happen regardless. Where are you though? Because we just read in Matthew, if you're not gathering the fold through my method, that means you're scattering abroad. You're scattering the fold. You're doing the complete opposite of what your mission is. Let me get, what was Peter told? Let's go to, let me get John. John 10 and 24.
This is the book of John, chapter 10 and verse 24.
And like I was saying, he was told to feed the sheep, right? How many times was he told that? Several times, right? He doubted, then he ended up being able to be a leader of Israel and commit himself, right? His ministry to doing exactly what Yahweh Shai asked of him. So then it says, feed my sheep. How you going to feed his sheep if you're by yourself? If you're not in a community, in a camp, in a congregation, in a body of Israelites, right? Get that out?
Book of John, chapter 10 and verse 24. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, how long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. Yahweh Shai answered them, I told you, and ye believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because ye are not my sheep, as I said unto you.
Look at that. So again, going back to what we just read in Matthew, these are the things you got to examine. Like, okay, you know what? I don't get what them brothers are saying. I don't understand this. I don't understand that. Then it's either one thing, you're not really studying, examining everything, or like what he said right now, you're not a sheep. And that's scary right there. That's scary. But imagine if you're on your own and you're like, you know what, that don't really matter. I'm keeping laws. I got my fringes. I know the law as far as the dietary law, somewhat, the moral laws. If you're just half, yeah, going through the motions and not really, searching out the word, how you're supposed to, you're not there. And that's why a lot of this confusion exists within you and within the, amongst the people that you are leading. Because regardless, you're leading somebody. You're not going to tell me you're just at home by yourself. It's either your family or a couple of brothers that you're dealing with. That's camp right there. That's a camp. It's not a major or a huge camp, but that's a camp, right? And I know the whole point is of why do we need these camps? Why should we be amongst these camps? We've been going over it. First is the way that the Most High intended for us to be, right? To be amongst the body, to be able to check and correct each other, to be able to uplift each other, to be able to help each other, to be able to have the community back. I mean, everybody else does. When you look at it, everybody else, all these other nations that are successful, that's how they operate. They have their banks, they have everything. Every aspect of business, they have it unlocked. We're the only ones that are lacking. And that's why whenever we did have it, they came and destroyed it. But that's the thing we got to look at. We can't dwell on Tulsa and all these other places. We got to look at what we have in hand right now, at hand, and do what we need to do with what it is that we have. And if we don't have much, then get it. As a unit, right? It's much easier when, you have people to depend on and be able to help each other. But again, being in a camp alone is not going to get you there. You got to be in that camp and be active. Be able to, provide for your people, provide for your own. So it says, my sheep hear my voice. Read that, 27.
My sheep hear my
Read 26
voice.
again, Salakia.
Verse 26. But ye believe not, because ye are not my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand.
Now that's it. So with what we read earlier, just before this, it was telling you that the Most High, has set Yahweh Shai to be that one mediator, that one leader in that last congregation that we, Most High willing, if we endure until the end, will be partaking of, right? And also, again, the 144 elect, those are going to be the ones that are governing, that holding, that are judging everything and controlling, governing. It's the government that's going to be set under Yahweh Shai. So again, if you're not rehearsing those righteous acts right now, what makes you think you're going to be able to make it into the kingdom of the Most High? When you don't know the basics, when you don't understand how it is or what it is to be part of a community, be able to, build men, build women, be able to raise righteous children. You're not. No accountability ever in your presence, because guess what? You're on your own. You do whatever you want. Vagabond, right? Let me get 1 Corinthians 4, actually Luke 21 and 34.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 34. And take heed to yourselves, lest any time your hearts be overcharged with suffering and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that they come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man.
All right, so again, these are things that on your own, you might have a chance, right? But as a unit, you're able to go and communicate with individuals, be able to take advice from individuals. Sometimes it gets to a point where you don't even know you're going off. You be out here and truly you do know, but you make excuses. You need somebody with a stern character to come and let you know what? You're tripping right now. You're going off. And as a brother, as my brother's keeper, right? I need to be able to come through and correct you and give you this correction. Or you, once you're corrected and you grow in this walk, you do that for the next man, the next person. It says, Lord forbid, if you go off. In the scriptures it says, you come in, you get rid of that spirit, right? That wicked spirit when you come into the script, into the walk. Sometimes not just one, it's a gang of them, a gang of different things that you were, connected to that were off and they were not of the Most High. And it says you mob around for a minute, you do good, but then that spirit goes and comes back with 7 spirits worse than himself. And if your heads is not up, he comes in and he takes over. And your end is worse than what the position that you were in at the beginning. But imagine if you're unaware and you're out here like it's nothing, and you don't have a body to look out, brothers to be like, hey, what's good? You all right? Because you're moving different now. What's got your mind? What's got your attention? It might be that makes you react and be like, you know what? Yeah, you know what? I am off. I didn't even notice it. But then even then, sometimes, a lot of times you're going to have a lot of people that is like, you know what? It is what it is. I choose to go that way. And they'll battle with these scriptures to make sense of their nonsense and still be out there thinking that they're a part of this walk when Yahweh Shai said, you know what? My sheep hear my voice. You're not of my fold. You're off. You're the opposition. right? 1 Thessalonians 5:11. And then we're gonna get, You guys good? Falling asleep? No? I see a couple of you guys. Rough week, All praises. How was you guys' Christmas? Yeah, celebrated the birth of Christ. Crazy, right? Go ahead.
This is the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 11. Wherefore comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also ye do.
Uh-huh. So look at that. I'm pretty sure you guys get the point, right? You guys get the point of what importance these camps hold. It's not only going to benefit you, but it benefits the body. It benefits the raising of the nation. Like there's no other way of making it happen. If we're not in a body, we don't go ahead and always, imagine you're in for a year. That second year, you should be leveling up. That third year, you should be at a different place, a different position. You're supposed to be bringing now, like that's why you look at, brothers taking trips to be able to go set the order. The ministry that we read about, that's what the brothers were doing. They were going to go and set up shop. Sisters, the same thing. You have Aquila and Priscilla, right? That's an example of this couple that used to go and travel around like Paul was doing and setting things in order in these different churches as a couple. These are the things, these should be like, them goals that we should be looking at. You know what? I want to be doing this. I want to be doing that. You read about our ancestors and be like, yeah, you know what? I want to get to that level. And we're only going to get there and understand these things if we're in these churches and these camps learning from somebody. Because imagine, you could read at home, you could read all day and still be lost. You got to come back and be like, all right, you know what? I need the edification. And all these different classes, they cover that, right? But again, that's why you have a lot of confusion out in the world because, one, we don't read. Second, we just go based off whatever our thoughts are and our perceptions be, which are completely off from these scriptures. Let me get this. Let me get Jeremiah 23 and verse 1. We covered this last week, but let's read it again. Jeremiah 23 and 1.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 23 and verse 1. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, said the Lord. Therefore, thus said the Lord God of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people, ye have scattered my flock and driven them away.
Okay, so look at that, right? We covered this last week. The bishop did an excellent job doing this, right? Going over this. So it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord. First, it said destruction to these pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep. No matter where you go in the scriptures, you read about that. Scattering. It says, it don't say, woe unto those that bring my people together. It says those that scatter. That's why one of the curses is that we were going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the world, right? We're supposed to be coming back now. Then it says, therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people, feed them this doctrine, right? Or whatever doctrine they're feeding them. Ye have what?
Ye have scattered my flock and driven them away,
Uh-huh.
and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doings, said the Lord.
So imagine, he's telling the pastors these things, the leaders these things, right? So you as a head of a household, and if this is what you're teaching your family, this is what you believe in, this is what you're teaching your family, what do you think your end's going to look like? We're reading about it right here. Destruction. Because it doesn't only stay with your family. No matter, anybody that you come across, you're going to let them know your views, right? And talk about camps, how wicked they are, how it's not necessary. All you need to do is read the scriptures, be at home, do you. The scriptures don't say that, right? And, you guys could continue reading. I think we covered Jeremiah 23 for the most part last week. But, do your own due diligence. Another one, let me get, I think I want. Timothy. 2 Timothy. So, I mentioned it earlier, where the Pharisees, they believe in the doctrine of the resurrection, right? And you look at these things when you read in the book of Acts, how there's many incidents of things that were happening where they were talking against, these doctrines that certain Israelites were teaching at that time. You have people that believe in Diana, Esther, all these, Ishtar, all these things, just like in the book of Jeremiah. All these things were always amongst the Israelite community. So if these things were present, we had to know the true doctrine to be able to come and dispute and go against these things and defend the true gospel, the true word, right? The true doctrine. But again, if we don't do our due diligence, if we don't go back and forth, you have here tomorrow brothers meet up and they get drilled on certain things. They don't get drilled just so we could pass time. No, they get drilled so you could understand, okay, you know what? That's that. That's things that are prevalent in our community and affect our community. So therefore, so you don't get confounded and end up on the left side, you need to know these things to be able to guide the people, be able to be a righteous pastor that's going to lead, right, the sheep in the right direction, right? So let me get that right quick. Yeah. 2:15. 2 and 15.
There's the second book of Timothy, chapter 2 and verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto the Most High.
So that's the first thing, right? Each and every single one of us, even if you're a female, a wife, no. Don't think that, through your husband, you're going to achieve that salvation. That's why a lot of times, the relationships are faulty, because you have some women that be like, you know what, my husband got it. It's all on him. I'm going to just follow his lead. But then you don't even know how to follow his lead because you don't know how his thought process is. Why? Because you're not in this book to understand what his priorities are or how he sees life. So then, therefore, you start clashing the way the correction comes in. When you really think about it, the mother should be doing all the correction in the household, right? That's what the scripture said. The Most High gave that office unto the moms. It says, and you are your camp, right? You're the camp head of all the babies that you guys have. So then the mom comes through in case, she has, some doubts. Okay, how do we deal with this issue? And then you guys have that communication amongst each other. That's not to say that the female, the wife, is never going to have some input. That's what this is about. You might go into some scriptures and be like, oh, you know what? I got this from this and this. Let's break bread. Let's come together and really study this as a unit now. You do your own studies, right, on your own, and you come together, and then you also come and have studies with your family. That's what Psalm 78 is about, to talk to them. And Joshua 1 and 8, meditate therein, day in and day out, right, day and night. Psalm 78, it says, instruct them so they have a possibility of not being like their forefathers. and trust in the Most High instead of their own ways. That's what that looks like. If we really do what we're reading right here in 2 Timothy. Read it again.
Verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
So you see that, ashamed, right? When you look at ashamed, a lot of times there's certain communications or conversations that people don't want to have. Why? What makes you not want to have a conversation in regards to this doctrine right here? What could it be? Huh? What else? Read that again out from the top.
Study to show thyself approved.
Study, right? Study to show thyself approved, right? A lot of people dodge certain things because what's the one thing they're not doing? Studying. You ask people, why do you do this and this? Like brother always brings up the new moon. Why do we keep the new moon? You got like 4 different answers. And sometimes you just have a blank face like, I don't know. I mean, because you guys told us to. It's a celebration. Like, okay, it's not that deep. But that, sometimes, and let's say it's as to the body. You see people start doing this and looking away, right? It shouldn't be like that. Because it says you got to work out your own salvation in fear and trembling, right? Do your own works with your own hands. So this shows you everybody in the body has a purpose, right? A particular purpose. But in that same book, at the end in verse 16, we read that all be in one accord, in one mind. Because that means as far as doctrine, everybody's on point. Everybody knows the same thing. If I talk to Aman, if I talk to the young one here, no matter who I go and talk to, any sister, everybody is in one accord. This brother could break down why we keep the new moon, why we keep a sock, why do you have fringes on your clothes, right? Why is it that you can't eat a medium rare steak? All these things, it's like, it's automatic. Like, I could pull the scripture. You need the scripture, here you go. You need two witnesses, let's go. That's how it should be. But again, we dodge these conversations because guess what? You be teaching stuff that you're not even 100 with, right? Just because somebody told you to do certain things, now you're doing them. And these are the things, again, the issues with the camps, the things that we got to look at as we move towards that day of judgment. We can't be doing these things, making up excuses why we don't want to sit down and go over certain doctrines. But yet, you tell your congregation that no matter what, you're able and open to go over these doctrines. Whatever issues you might have, let's go ahead and talk about it. You're on the corner saying these things. But then it comes to a matter where you're needed for that, you make an excuse. It don't work like that. There's certain things that we put out to the public, which is Israel. Listen, if you guys have anything else, any other information, please come forth and let's break bread. Because it's not about True Nation and what they say. It's about what the word of the Most High is. If you have information on this doctrine, on this subject, let's break bread and go over it. Right? Read that again, Art.
Verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
That part right there, rightly dividing the word of truth. There's only one truth. Everything else is a lie. We prophesy in part, we know in part. There's certain things I used to practice back in the day that I don't know more. Why? Because we found out it was off. Many things. So then as you find these things out, guess what? You're getting closer to that perfection. You can't stay stuck and allow your ego and your pride to hold you back from having these conversations. Because that's the whole point of the camps, of the community, of the congregations that we're supposed to be a part of. Because when you look at these scriptures in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, you're going to find the word disputing often. And he disputed for 3 Sabbaths in a row. About what? What do you think they were talking about? The law, the doctrine. Remember, everybody was confused. Like, do I observe the new moon? What do I do now? Do I still offer animal sacrifice? When you go into the books, into the books of Paul, the epistles and all that, that's where you start understanding, oh, okay, that's what that is. Oh, that's what the new covenant is. Oh, it was a shadow of good things to come. Okay, the good thing was Yahweh Shai. Oh, man, that was prophesied since way back in the day in the Old Testament. Okay, it's not that confusing no more. I get it. Why? Because you study to show yourself approved, right? And now you're like, okay, cool. My brother just posted something that made it real easy. If I was to look at that, he said, okay, I figured it out. New Year's is this day. And if you count 15 and he actually number every single one of them, Passover is this Sunday. It's that easy. You posted that because now you understand it, right? And that is going to help somebody else understand it. Because I looked at him like, oh, that's I never seen somebody post something like that. And it's real to the point, real easy to understand. How long did that take, Darash? Man, and that patience, right? Was patience not exercise? All praises, but guess what? That's what it takes. A body of brothers, a body of sisters to be able to teach each other, edify each other, correct each other. And I don't want to draw it out. I'm going to just end it right there. But again, we need to be a part of a community to be able to do all the things that we're supposed to execute, right, as individuals. Because we're only going to be able to, do these things to other folks. Charity, we give it unto others. Tobit, again, all throughout the scriptures. All throughout the scriptures. That's what you see. If we're building a community, then guess what? We got to be part of a community. If we're building a kingdom, a nation, then we got to be around bodies. No matter what you look, every culture, that's what they were doing. And we're tribal by nature, right? So yeah, you could be in a camp. We could be from different camps, but at the end of the day, we're supposed to be striving to get it correct, get it on point, right? Be all in one accord, because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be. When Yahweh Shai comes back, because that's another thing. People, when Yahweh Shai comes back, he'll fix everything. Yeah, he is, but guess what? How much did you put? How much effort did you put into trying to get it right? Think about it. How much fasting did you do? How much praying did you do? How much did you wear out the doorstep of the godly men that you had around you? How many questions did you ask? When was that even in your mind throughout the week? These are the things you look at like, okay, you know what? I'm not ashamed of anything, because guess what? Anything that I had a doubt with, I went and dealt with it. I know that, that congregation had a Q&A on Mondays, and I was there. If I wasn't there present, I was there online. And whenever I dealt with somebody, whenever I had an issue, I went to somebody and inquired. And we sat down and we chopped it up, and guess what? We came to a resolution. That's what it takes. We got to, again, look out for each other, encourage each other, sharpen each other. But, we'll close it out with that, and I pray it was edifying. And make sure, you tune in tomorrow at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time as we close out the Sabbath with Bishop Tazai one. Shalom.
If it wasn't for the Most High who was on my side, man, ain't no telling where I'd be.
Mr. Wilson with another.
Can't nobody tell me nothing different. The Father's been good to me.
So good to me.
Yeah. Wave your hands if you feel me. I'm a witness. Yahweh's been good to me.
So good to me.
Every morning that I rise, I thank Yahweh that I'm living. Keep my enemies at bay and never leave without my fringes. 1611 with me cause I'm on a mission. Talking sheep, I pay the cost, me and my lines really live it.